Hey there, and welcome to the Gap Year podcast. My name is Michelle Dittmer, and I am your host and Gap Year expert. Today, we have an incredible guest with us here. We have Karan, and he is here to talk about his Gap Year experience. Now, what I love so much about your story is how you saw something, you saw an opportunity in your life, and you pursued it. And against some odds, but you have done some incredible things on your gap year. So much so that we actually found you by articles that were published in the paper, and you've been featured a couple of places, which I think is pretty amazing. And now we're very honored to have you on our podcast today. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I really very much appreciate it. Right when I was told that I was asked to be on this podcast, I had to take the opportunity to tell my story and hopefully inspire more people out there.
That's amazing. Well, I know your backstory, but those listening and watching may not necessarily know. So why don't we rewind and maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about why you chose to take a gap year.
Yeah, of course. So kind of an intro. So my name is Karan. I'm from suburban Toronto, based in Scarborough. I actually attend Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. And currently, within my gap year, I decided to increase my income from zero to $83,000 a year, only working 37.5 hours a week within two sectors, within the banking sector and the construction sector. For a greater cause, actually, so I can help my family recover from the pandemic in an emotional and just in a financial way. It really starts way back from the time my parents actually immigrated to Canada. My dad immigrated in 1996, and then after he started working here without any formal post-secondary education, and then he went back to India, got married to my mom. Well, my mom got married, and then he brought her here, and then after they lived they lived here together happily with my other relatives. And what the issue they faced were just like every other issue that immigrant parents or immigrants in general face, such as the language barrier, financial barriers, educational barriers, and those barriers really kind of got to them emotionally in different levels, and it really took a strain on them throughout their time in Canada. And I remember just my dad had to take up at a point two job so he can make ends meet because we were just living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember at the time I was just a kid, and I was just I was just thinking, does my dad not care about me? Why does he not want to spend time with me? He's always working, working, working. I always got to see him only at night. And looking back at it, in high school I realized the real reason why he did that. It was mostly because he can provide the best quality of life for me and my sister. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing that he did that. He sacrificed so much, and I never realized that. And at that time as a kid, I probably said so many things that probably hurt his feelings. And now, so then in high school, I thought to myself, hey, I gotta make him realize that his sacrifice will not go into vain, and I gotta do something for him. That's why I decided that, hey, I'm gonna pursue a type of education that he wants me to pursue. And in a South Asian household, that's either a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. And I was like, okay, so doctor, biology wasn't my thing. I wasn't too much into studying law or anything. So you know what, I went right into engineering because STEM was mostly where I kind of attracted to at the time in high school. So I took up engineering, and then fast forward to the pandemic in 2020 was my first year at Ryerson University within the mechanical engineering program, and it was really, really, really tough actually. For three main reasons. This was because I had to take up 6 courses. I've never taken up so many courses in one term, and there was plus the terms in university are much shorter than in high school, right? So in university, it's 4 months, 6 courses, and all STEM, science, technology, and engineering, math. That's crazy. And that workload was definitely one of the hardest part. Plus, this was the first time we were completely remote. I never even got to speak with some of the people I met online in person. And, it was really having that interaction in person is really crucial to your mental health and just to making friends, because that's what really university is for. Second thing was just I realized soon into my program I disliked it, I really thought to myself, like, if I stayed in STEM, within the STEM program, or within mechanical engineering, I don't think I would live a happy, fulfilling life. But I still did it because I knew I wanted my dad to feel proud of me, feel happy. And, again, like his sacrifice weren't going into vain. So that me not liking the program also had a negative effect on me because I was never motivated to actually go forward and do the extra things when it comes to studying. And last but not least was just the family issue that I was bombarded with in 2020. Back in 2020, 2021, early 2021, that was when like the COVID out the Delta COVID variant was there was like a massive outbreak in India, and that caused there was about 4 to 5 relatives of mine, like both close and far, who passed away because of this variant, and it was really impact to my family. I just remember this at times, just like walking into the living room and like my mom was just not in the best emotional state, and then like I remember my dad at the same time was not in the best emotional state because he lost relatives as well, and plus my grandmother was really going through a really tough time at that time. So that was another stress I was going through my dad, and I couldn't watch them go through that stress while I just did university, and like it was very hard on me, and all of that really like built it up over time until that one event, actually 1 year, like it was about like 1 year ago in May, when my grandmother passed away. I remember going to a funeral, and I was just I was in front of my grandmother's casket, and my dad was there. It's really emotional for me. And then afterwards, I remember just making telling myself, like, you know what, like if I go forward, I wouldn't be the best son. I wouldn't be like the person who, like, it doesn't matter if I go forward in engineering. Right now, my family needs me the most. So that's why I decided, like, I'm gonna take a gap here, and I'm gonna do my best to provide for them, love them, care for them, and it's give them my best time, my uttermost attention. And you know what? That's why I took my gap here, and uh, ever since, it's been a really, really fun ride. Same time has been really terrifying as well, but one that was definitely worth it.
So you have so much going on in your life and over the past couple of years. So let's just call that out. Let's just acknowledge that that you had a lot of complicating factors going on in your life. And congratulations for navigating that, first of all. And I think a lot of our listeners also have that sense of overwhelm. There is so much pressure in our lives. And I think often, like, older teenagers don't get credit for the stress that's happening in the lives, and how the environmental stress, not just your school stress, but your family stress. You had that financial crisis in your family, you had the pandemic in your family, you were going against cultural norms for the South Asian community, and this weight of disappointing your family. All of these things are very, very heavy. So number one, you are incredibly resilient. And I think a lot of people would resonate with one of those struggles, one of those challenges that was before you, let alone all of them. So thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable and letting us know all of those things that were happening, because that's a lot. And pushing pause on formal education is a very, very wise decision when we get into that state of overwhelm, when we have all of these things spinning out of control around us. Just pushing forward for the sake of pushing forward and checking boxes can actually be more detrimental. So I'm glad that you had the courage and the confidence to recognize that, hey, there's another option here. And it might not be the popular choice, but this is what you felt called to do. And I think that the fact that you were able to step up and support your family emotionally by being present for them and not just having your nose buried in a textbook, the fact that you were able to go out and find employment that supported your family financially through a really difficult crisis. The fact that you were able to work with your family in making this decision and helping them understand doing something different. And I think also navigating a lot of that emotional stress that is on yourself too, when you are bucking the trends, when you are doing something different, or you are going against, we'll call them expectations, from
Exactly.
society and from your parents. So all of these things can in the moment seem so bad, but now that you're here and you're smiling and you're looking back at it,
Yeah.
I can see that now it's very clearly the right decision for you. But maybe
Yeah.
in the moment it might not have quite felt like that.
Exactly. Looking back at it, taking a gap year was the best thing that's ever happened to me, actually. So there were different parts of my life that I was able to build upon and kind of improve, helping myself financially and professionally, as well as learning these like very crucial life lessons that I wouldn't have learned if I had not taken my gap year. Um, Starting off like, and not just like my professional financial life and learning each life lesson, but also my physical health. I was actually able to focus on that part. That was one part I was very, something I never really looked after before my gap year, especially as an engineering student. I see, what I find is that most students, they overlook their health and they're just eating whatever just so they can get back into like the assignments and whatnot. And so I actually got time to actually look at my health and kind of see like where can I improve on, and not just like my physical health, but then like my emotional health. So one thing I first did was like, I want to start off entirely fresh. So I just created like a little a new uh basis, like set of principles to live my life off of. And like to kind of get started off like these principles, I want to like learn from the best. So like the best at like who I look up to are like these really prominent, amazing figures in emotional and mental health and physical health, like Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty, Lewis Howes. These people were all people I looked up to, and like I listened to their podcast like daily, and I learned so many different things, such as appreciating the moment, appreciating how life is pretty much a gift if you really think about it. Getting that thought into like my principle, how I live and go through life, has really changed my perspective on everything, actually. So one thing that's really helped me to do is integrate new healthy habits, such as meditating, journaling. These are something that I never like thought deeply of before. Now looking back at it, becoming who I have become now with the salary that I have right now, with my professional development, and like how I've been the best I possibly can for my family, it's because of integrating these new habits. Meditation has helped me kind of appreciate the moment, be focused within the moment, being able to give you my divine intention right now, as well as journaling, reflecting on the day, where could I have gone better, listing out like what am I grateful for, the food on my plate, clothes on my back, roof over my head. It's just little things, right? And like that's one of the small things I've learned in my gap year. That's just one of the smallest things. And there's just so many other different things that I've learned. Before I got my jobs, I had to first build myself professionally, because before this, I never had any professional principles to live or to kind of get a job off of. So for example, my networking skills, my interviewing skill, capability, and just my resume writing was when I first got my internship. Before this, I actually had failed an interview with a different bank, and it wasn't the best. I never knew what I was doing. I said something that didn't make sense, whatnot. And looking back at it, after getting feedback from that previous hiring manager, I integrated that feedback, and I did my research on YouTube and everything. If I didn't fail it, and if I wasn't able to get the internship at CIBC, then I would have been able to integrate these professional habits that I've been able to integrate currently. Lastly, it was just kind of with my family, just kind of understanding them in a better way. Before this, I thought I knew my family, but then since I got time, I was able to kind of get to know them. If you kind of give your full divine intention to someone, you get to know more about them. Taking a gap year has given me so many like gifts, from building new financial habits, building personal habits, and then after, as well as it's building relationships. Us all something that are overlooked, but like in life, that's the most important thing that you need to focus on. So that's what my gap year has really, looking back at it, it's been probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And like even going forward in life, like whatever I've learned, I'm gonna take that till me till my last breath. So it's really a gift in disguise from God.
I love that. And what I really like about what you're sharing is these are all skills that aren't taught in a classroom.
Exactly.
and and
Exactly.
and and for whatever reason society has prioritized the STEM subjects. So you can be an expert at integrating functions, but
Yeah.
if you don't understand gratitude, and you don't understand who you are, and you don't understand how your relationships are working in the world around you, integrating functions is not going to get you very far. Even if you want to be somebody who integrates functions on a daily basis for money, just knowing that skill is not enough. There is so much more to being human. And I don't think the
Yeah.
classroom always gives us the opportunity to explore those things. And you have really embraced that, from the reflective component, doing the journaling and the meditation and being present. That is something that comes with the freedom from academic structure, because you have more capacity, more mental space, more physical time to
Yeah.
spend on these things, and to really be that person that has those skills and those abilities. And taking that again into the professional realm, having that real world learning experience where you
Exactly.
tried out something, it didn't work out in your favor, but you learned from it and you applied it, and you've made jobs accessible to you. You've been able to earn an incredible income to support your family. Like that in itself is amazing. And then you fortified these relationships with your family. And again, if you had your nose down in a textbook and were just kind of barreling on, you
Yeah.
might miss out on a lot of those
Most
opportunities.
likely. Yeah.
And I would hazard a guess that all of those feelings you had at the beginning about disappointing your family, and not living up to that expectation of going directly through engineering to be the top student to get the top marks, I would hazard a guess that your family's pretty proud of you with the decisions that you've made.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're very happy actually. I've been able to do my best to improve our quality of life as much as possible, to a certain extent that now I'm able to dream of, achieving our long dreams that we've always had. So for my parents, their biggest dream has been to own their home, like their own house, and that's something that I never even thought of before, like taking my gap year. At first it was just to get by, and then after we started getting by, it's about like maybe just doing a bit extra by like providing my family with this little small little extra things, like maybe an extra night out or something, or eating out or something like that, right? And then now that I'm being able to make this income and I'm been able to sustain it long term, I've been able to think like bigger. Looking back at it, I would never thought I'd be able to kind of dream this big, of kind of owning my own like house at maybe early 20s, just by with the income I have, and then being able to buy that for my family like this early on, as I've been able to do right now. And they've been really proud. They've been telling me that like they really did not expect that from me. Even at first, that they first thought like, hey, like I thought you were making the wrong decision by like quitting, like not quitting, but like pausing university for 1 year. And now looking back at it, even they think that that was probably a really good decision for you, because you've been able to develop yourself personally, and then you've been able to help us as well. So they've been really appreciative of that. And even them, like they may not have thought about it then, but now they do, right? So it's about that mindset. Like if you're trying to take a gap, you're trying to do something big, and you may not have much support, you gotta think of like, if this works out like exactly the way you thought of it, how are they gonna think afterwards, right? And that's one thing I thought of as well. Like I thought, you know what, like if this opportunity, like if I did not do this, it's I'm gonna regret it. Like I'm gonna regret not doing this, and I'm gonna look back at it and be like, oh my god, I should have maybe taken a gap year. I would have like maybe I would have done something differently. But now I've taken my gap year, so now I have no regrets, right? So if now I don't have no regrets, and plus I'm able to think bigger now. So like my life's amazing, and I'm living a really great quality of life just because I took that risk and I made that decision that what, like I don't care what's gonna happen. I'm gonna do my best, and like I'm just gonna follow my heart, and that's what I really pretty much did. And like and now look at me, like I'm happy, my family's happy, we're dreaming big. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's a gift.
I love that. And I love that you talk about taking that risk. And it's a calculated risk. But one thing that people sometimes forget is that university or college will always be there for you. So
Exactly.
even when you're pushing pause, that ability to return back to school when it is the right time for you, that's always an option. But taking a gap year isn't always going to be an option. So taking that risk now and dreaming big and working hard, it's not just about dreaming, you worked hard to
Yeah.
find the jobs that you did, to develop the skill sets that you did, to grow your network professionally. You worked hard to make that happen. But the university is there for you as well. And when you're ready to go back in, or if you want to do part-time studies along with what you're doing, that avenue is it's not closing a door, which I think a lot of parents and a lot of students even are concerned about, that by taking a gap year they're actually closing a door. And it's not closing a door. That door can still open. You're just kind of like taking a little walk around and going in the back door, or just doing it a little bit differently, but you still have that option on the table, which can put people at ease when they actually like take a breath, feel it, and realize that that's still an option for them. Because sometimes we get so worried and so wrapped up in those emotions and that fear that we lose some of that rational thought about what is actually the best case scenario and what is actually the worst case scenario.
Yeah, also taking a gap year just opens up many different possibilities as well. So for me, since I didn't like mechanical engineering, right? I was more into the financial aspect of everything. When I was in university, I actually was part of different student groups where I got to manage their financials, I'll create Excel workbooks, where I got to kind of create a plan of like a spending plan and whatnot. So I was mostly interested in that, and that's what I really prioritized on my resume, and that's what I really prioritized kind of speaking to with the hiring manager on those specific skills that I've gained, and that's what really got me my internship and my jobs, because I was prioritizing the skill sets and like my personal passions, and not really like having the degree just as something as my background, and also leveraging my degree as well to a certain extent. But it's because of me able to me understanding and finding my real passion in finance and generally data analysis. That's why I've been able to actually switch my major. So that's why I'm not within mechanical engineering anymore. I'm in industrial engineering. So there's a big difference. Big as in like mechanical is more focused on like AutoCAD and whatnot. Industrial is more about like eliminating defects, automating processes. It's more of what I wanted to do. And what I've learned from my gap year. And I wouldn't have learned that if I hadn't not taken my gap year. So that's one thing at all. It opens you up to different new possibility that you may actually be interested in. So that's definitely another plus for about taking a gap year.
Yeah. And coming out of grade 12, like, what do you really know about the world?
Yeah.
And like, I ask all the time young people who say they want to be engineers, I'll say, what does an engineer do? They're like, I don't know, like make a lot of money. I don't know, get a lot of respect. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think getting that life experience can help put everything into perspective. And when you do go back to school, you're going to be looking at your studies through a different lens, because you have life experience now. It's not just studying for the sake of studying. Now you can see how what you're learning applies to the real world and can apply to jobs, and how you can leverage it in your future.
Exactly. You're definitely right.
Now, I know we could talk for hours and hours on the benefits of a gap year in your story, but if you were to give some advice to young people that are kind of weighing that decision to gap or not to gap, or should I work on my gap year? What words of wisdom do you have to share? What is Karan gonna share with the world?
First thing is first, like you gotta follow your heart. You gotta follow what your calling is. You gotta do what you naturally think is gonna result in your happiness, and also result in your family's happiness and the people around you. So for me, that was just taking a gap year so I can kind of gain some professional experience, increase my income so I can give back to my family. That was following my heart, so I can give back to my family so they can have the best quality of life they can have. So it's just following your heart, and then your heart may take you like different places, which might be weird, or like you may kind of regret it or something. But it's about kind of like trusting in your heart and believing in it till the end. And because like in the end, like like life's short. Like you want to live a happy life. Like the Dalai Lama said, like the purpose of our lives is to be happy, and the best way of doing that is following your heart, doing something that you naturally gravitate towards. And sometimes you don't know that. That's hard to find. But that's why you gotta try different things to find that. If you don't know, then go out there, like try different things, try the arts, try law, try engineering, try finance, like do everything. And whatever your heart like gravitates towards more naturally, do that, because that's what you're gonna love doing for the rest of your life. And so when you're at the end phase of your life, you can reflect back on a happy, fulfilling life where you've been able to do your best for yourself and others. So definitely just follow your heart, because if you don't follow your heart, you're gonna regret it. So that's definitely my biggest advice for everyone out there.
Those are huge words of wisdom. And I think it's so important. This is your life to live. You're not living anybody else's life. And
Exactly.
while life is short, we hear that a lot, like life is short, life is short. The other flip side of that is that life is long. Life is
Yeah.
long to be
Yeah,
doing
that's true as
something
well.
you are not enjoying, or
Exactly.
trying to find your place in the world. If you never find that place, you spend your time searching for a lot for things in strange places. And when you take that time to explore earlier on, you get to discover what those things are, and then
Yeah.
you get to put the next steps into place for yourself, so that you can lead that fulfilling life and that you can achieve those big dreams that you've set out for yourself. And I think
Exactly.
you are a perfect example of somebody who was able to do that. And I'm so amazed by what you've done. I am so proud of you for
Thank
the
you.
risks that you've
Thank you so
taken
much.
and the amazing things that you've learned about yourself, the things you've learned about the world, and the true gifts that you are giving to your family, and the way that you are navigating your life to not only lead a good life for yourself, but also to share that with your family. So I just feel very honored to have been able to have this conversation with you.
No, of course. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And just having this conversation has really helped me just kind of put everything in an organized perspective. Even for me, like talking about this, sometimes it's kind of hard to talk about this with other people. But then you've given me that platform. You've given me the opportunity to speak with you, so I can kind of learn like even more about myself in a way. Because sometimes it's hard to know about it if it's within you, but when it comes out of you, like that's actually the person I am. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to understand that, realize that, and just like hopefully I'm able to just inspire other readers out or listeners out there, that like taking a gap year is actually one of the best things you can possibly do, as long as it's your calling, as long as it's something you gravitate towards. So yeah.
That's amazing. And Karan, just what you said
Yeah.
about talking to somebody about your gap year, I think is really important. And what some people don't know is that we offer free 30-minute chats with anybody considering a gap year. So the Canadian Gap Year Association, we know how important those conversations are, especially when we're trying to make difficult decisions. So people can book a call with me at any time, cangap.ca/call. So if the listeners out there are thinking about a gap year, or if you're on your gap year and you need some suggestions, or you need a cheerleader, or you're just trying to unpack some of that stuff, that's what we're here for as an organization. And like coming from the mouth from somebody who's just experienced that, I think it's so important to know that those resources exist. So I would be happy to speak with anybody out there who's considering a gap year. You can just book that call with me, and I'd love to chat with you. But Karan, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to talk to you again when you buy your first house. Sound good?
Of course. Of course, definitely. Sounds good.